Hi, my name is Easter. Welcome to the Easter Basket. And today I wanted to revisit, now that we are in Rift 2 of Tome 3, wanted to revisit these challenges and see if I can help newer players help to power through these challenges as fast as possible, especially if you don't have all the killers, all the perks available to you. I can recommend at least which ones would help you do these challenges easier, help you power through them as fast as possible. So, with that said, let's get into it. Go. Alright, and here we are. As usual, I'm going to start out with Killer first, because that is far further into my area of expertise as far as knowledge goes. So we start off with Spree of Violence, hit 12 different survivors. If you have Legion, a lot of this rift is based on Legion. I would highly recommend picking Legion up. Legion is going to be by far the easiest killer to do this with, because you're hitting different survivors. So killers that are really good at traversing about the map, at basically slapping people as much as possible, like Hag, like Nurse, but Legion is going to be by far your best option here if you have him available. Bloody rewards, so as usual for blood points, they're neutral, so you can do this whether it's killer or survivor. I recommend doing it as killer because you can get it done faster, because it does include barbecue and chili if you have that available. It also includes add-ons, so if you have your bloody party streamers, your survivor chili, then that would be the time to use it to get this done faster. Grenade launcher, hit 2 survivors with a charge hit of the Huntress's hatchets. Complete this challenge in a single trial. This means that you have to pull not all the way back, but most of the way back before you throw. So, as I said in my previous video, if you have no idea how to use Huntress, the best time to throw her hatchets is when a survivor is running from you and they are locked in an animation. So if they run towards a window to vault a window, if they drop a pallet in your face, if they do anything like that, then they are locked into position and you can throw a hatchet at that time. If you are very unconfident, then you can wait until they run outside into a dead zone, especially if you're not playing against, red rank survivors. You can wait until they run into a dead zone and try to hit them basically at point blank range with a hatchet if you're worried about your accuracy while you're chasing people. Right. And next we have anger management. So anger management is destroyed 20 drop pallets. The best way to do this as far as perks go, if you have enduring, to let you reduce the duration of pallet stun, if you have enduring, spirit fury, and brutal strength, you can just equip all 3 of those with, say, barbecue and chili, and then that way, no matter what survivors do, if they drop a pallet to respect you, if they drop a pallet on top of you, it's much easier to break them. You can also, since Legion is going to be used for more challenges in this rift, what you can do is you can level Legion and use his iridescent pin, or their iridescent pin, I should say. What the iridescent pin does is it makes your terror radius expand through the entire map so you can see everybody, and when you chase somebody, if they drop a pallet, as long as it doesn't stun you out of frenzy, if you vault that pallet in frenzy, it will break that pallet for you, so you don't have to take the time to break it, which is extremely useful. So those are the perks that I recommend. You can also use Demogorgon and Shred pallets if you don't have access to a whole lot of perks. I would recommend that as well. Terrified, make the survivor scream 30 times, play Doctor. If you have access to Doctor, play Doctor. Keep in mind that screaming, survivors scream when you hit them, they scream when you hook, they scream when you use Infectious Fright, and if you're Doctor, they scream when you breathe funny. So I would highly recommend Doctor if you have access to him. Earn 25 emblems of silver quality or better. This can be a lot more due to RNG because you have to prevent gens from going off very fast, you have to prevent survivors from healing, etc, etc. So in general, this is, when you're looking at this challenge, keep in mind this is essentially whichever killer you're best with. If you're not best with a killer, pick one like Billy, pick one like Trapper, pick somebody who's easy to use, and that way you'll just get in kind of a rhythm as you start to play games, and you can pound this out as fast as possible. Just keep in mind that this is a minimum at 4 emblems a time. This is at least 7 games, no matter which way you look at it. So there's not a whole lot you can do about restricting the playtime in this. You just want to make sure that you hit the threshold for those emblems as often as possible. So for Hunter's ambition, start a chase with 15 different survivors. Again, Legion comes out king here, I think, because it's in Legion's nature to sprint from survivor to survivor. Hag would also be very good for this if you're a skilled hag. Nurse would also be very good for this because she tends to end chases quickly and start chases with other people very quickly. But at a base, I would recommend Legion if you're not very familiar with the game. And this is a Legion-specific one. Feral Carnage hits survivors 3 times in a single use of Feral Frenzy. So keep in mind, it does not say hit 3 separate people. So all you need to do for this one, if you don't have access to add-ons that extend your frenzy radius or extend the duration, what you can do is if you find 2 people next to each other, you hit the first one, you run to the second one, and you hit the second person twice. That will give you this challenge. It will end your frenzy, but it will also give you this challenge. So that is the easiest way that I can think of to do it. Deadly Maiden, grab 1 survivor while they are hiding in a locker, and you are using the perk Iron Maiden. So this is another shaky one. If you are a mid to higher ranked killer, what survivors will often do if you start to chase them and they have DS is they will hop in a locker to force you to grab them and pick them up so you cannot slug them. If you are a mid to higher ranked person, I would highly recommend that you simply chase someone off the hook and force them to use DS on you. That's probably the easiest way to get this one. Because there's no head-on challenges in this one. There's nothing to that effect. So this will be kind of RNG unless you're up there and you can force people to DS you out of a locker. Execution is the next one. So kill 8 survivors by any means. An important distinction, you don't actually have to Mori people to get this. So if they're on 3rd hook and you hook them and it kills them, it counts towards this. So if you are having trouble, by all means, equip your Ebony Mori, do what you gotta do. Survivors have escape through the hatch challenges, which people bring keys for all the time, so you might as well take the flip side and bring a Mori if it helps you get this challenge done faster. All right, so Silver Run. Earn 3 emblems of silver quality or better in a single trial. So this one requires you to have basically just a good game in general. So I highly recommend you look up an emblem guide if you want to know what the specific emblems do. But basically you need to prevent the gens from being done very quickly, you need to prevent survivors from healing, and you need to end chases quickly. So all of those 3 things together will contribute to emblems, and a silver emblem fortunately is not that difficult to get. So if you have just one good game, you'll trick this, and it shouldn't be too difficult. Violent Imperative. So this is always going to be the most difficult sort of challenge, hooking people in the basement at the same time for a beginner to do. So you have to use Territorial Imperative. If you do not have it, that means that you need to use Huntress. And Huntress is definitely not the best person to use this perk on. So if you absolutely have no perks, no access to killers outside of Huntress, you can do this on Huntress. Iron Grasp is a non-killer specific perk. I would recommend you take that, you use it on her, and just try to carry somebody to the basement if they are close to you. If you have access to more than that, you can use Territorial Imperative on somebody like Trapper or Hag, who this is much more conducive to, or you can equip Agitation and Iron Grasp on Huntress to help you complete this challenge better and carry people to the basement. Otherwise, this is going to be much more trial and error than the other challenges, and you're just going to have to go game by game until you get this correct. And that's all the killer challenges. So we are going to come over to the first survivor challenge. So Freedom Fighter, unhook 5 different survivors, must unhook them safely. If you want to unhook people safely, use Borrowed Time. Borrowed Time, outside of extremely ridiculous circumstances, guarantees that you safely unhook somebody. So that's all there really is to say about that. A Leader of the Pack, perform a cooperative action for 60 seconds while using the perk Leader. Leader is a Dwight perk. So if you have access to a Swift, I highly recommend, if there is any cooperative action, that you play with at least one other person, because you can find each other, you can heal other people, and you can do gens and get cooperative actions done that way. Max Dexterity, get a great result on 2 skill checks. This is much more trial and error. If you are not familiar with doing great skill checks, fortunately it doesn't have to be in a row, but it does have to be in the same trial. So what I would recommend, I'm going to put a card up here somewhere to a guide about unlocking your frame rate. By default, it does VSync to 60 FPS if you're playing on PC, so skill checks are much, much harder to do. So if you unlock your frame rate, you'll find that this is much easier to do if you're struggling with it. Falling Philly. Fall from a great height while being chased 2 times as Kate Denson in a single trial. Easiest way to do this, if you have access to Nia, if you have access to Balanced Landing, use that. Otherwise, any time that you fall far enough to make a noise, that is what this means. So those little hills that are in all the maps, jumping out of a second-story window if you're on one of the maps with buildings, those all count towards this challenge. So just try to do a generator near places that you can jump from a height from. Say if you're on Ormond, the generator that's on the hill, and then if a killer comes to you, you can just jump off the hill, run around in a circle, jump off the hill again. Even if the killer catches you, then you have the challenge done. That's the fastest way to do it. Next one, repair a total of 10 generators. There is no fast way to do this. However, if you are using Dwight, if you're using that leader perk, that helps other people get gens done faster, then this will count towards your time. As long as you're repairing a generator, if you're repairing it with other people, if you're using a toolbox, it does not matter. It counts towards the total repair extension. So if you want to bring a brand new part, if you want to bring toolboxes, that is by far the easiest way to get this challenge done. Pallet Master. Drop a pallet to stun the killer 6 times. So the easiest way to do this is if you bring a med kit, use something like an abdominal dressing, extend the charges out as much as possible, and then you basically camp pallets. So you'll sit at the pallet and you'll wait until the killer runs up. When they swing to hit you, drop the pallet on their face, and then if you get hit, you run away and you heal. And then you do that ad nauseum until this challenge is done. That's the easiest way to get this one done. Dance of Deceit. Vault a pallet or window while in a chase 3 times while using the perk Dance With Me. So if you are using Kate, you dumped a couple levels into already because you have Tome 1. You can use Windows of Opportunity if you're not very familiar with the maps, and Dance With Me so you can see where the windows are in a chase. Otherwise, you can usually get at least 2 vaults. You can jump through a window and then you can jump back through, even if the killer hits you, and then that will give you 2 of these window vaults during a chase, and then that just leaves you to find opportunity to make another one. So I think that's the easiest way to do this. Just use Kate, use 2 of her base perks, and jump through windows while being chased that way. Escape route, escape 5 chases. The easiest way to do this is if a killer picks an ally up and you run in front of them and force a protection hit, that will start a chase for you. You can then run away and heal. That is by far the easiest way to do this consistently. Otherwise, using perks like Iron Will, so it's harder for killers to track you. Dance With Me, currently on Kate, makes it harder for killers to track you. Urban Evasion. Perks like that will make it much easier to escape chases in general to help get this challenge done. The last place you look, search 8 chests. Take Plunderer's Instinct. Plunderer's Instinct is a general perk that lets you see chests from a huge distance away. So if you equip that perk, then you'll be able to see all the chests available. You can also use the add-ons that nobody ever uses, the coins, which add chests to the map. So especially if you're in a Swift, you can have every member of your Swift drop a coin, and it is entirely possible to get this done in a single game if you have friends who are capable of helping you get this done. The Night of Dwight. Escape 1 trial as Dwight Fairfield. Okay, so this is much less a perk suggestion than a game suggestion. If you have to escape a trial, then your goal is to stay alive as long as possible. Now, this does not mean play like a butthead and let people die on a hook, but take perks that help you survive. Take No One Left Behind if you have Bill, which lets you see the hatch if you're the last person alive. Take perks like that, bring a key if you think it's necessary, and try to just do everything in your power to escape for that game. So if you are a decent survivor, then you'll escape, 50-60% of the games that you play anyway. So there's not really any need to push on that, but if you're newer, definitely try to play for the hatch in some way, shape, or form, whether that's using Bill or using a key. So escape artist, escape 2 trials. This is another one, play like you're going to escape. If you're a regular survivor and you've gotten to this point, there are a ton of challenges in here, then you'll probably just escape by playing the game normally. But if you are worried about getting this done, you're new, bring keys. That's what I would suggest. Keys are by far the easiest way to get out of a match alive. Even though I personally hate them as killer, they are good for this purpose for getting your challenges done, which I definitely will not fault anyone for if you're struggling with it, because these challenges, especially when it gets to the point where this says escape 5 trials instead of escape 2, gets very tedious to do. So do what you got to do. And with that, that is all the challenges gone through. So if you have any advice, you think there's anything I missed, leave it in the comments below. And if you would like to catch me on Twitch, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/theeasterbasket. My work schedule is very inconsistent, but you can catch me there whenever I go live. Thank you guys. I hope you learned something.